The sound of laughter echoed through the air like mocking thunder. It was supposed to be a happy Saturday. A family hangout at the luxury beach resort in Lagos. The Olenrawadu family, known for their wealth and loud personalities, had taken over the entire cabana area. Music played, grills smoked, and everyone seemed to be having fun, until his voice cut through the chatter. "Look at you," Damilare said, his face twisted in disgust. "A poor fat pig trying to sit with rich people." The laughter that followed burned more than the sun above me. I froze, holding my paper plate of grilled fish and jollof rice. My hands trembled. Every cousin and aunt turned toward me, their laughter caught somewhere between surprise and discomfort. "Dami!" his father barked, but the damage was done. Tears threatened to spill, but I swallowed them. My full figure suddenly felt heavier, my ankara dress tighter. Everyone was watching, and I couldn't move. Damilare leaned closer, smirking. "You should have stayed where you belong. At home, in your small flat. This hangout isn't for—" Then it happened. A black Rolls-Royce Phantom glided into the resort's private drive, its body gleaming like polished obsidian under the afternoon sun. The entire Olenrawadu family turned. Even the waiters paused. From the back seat stepped out a man. Tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored white caftan, dark sunglasses shielding his face. He wasn't just anyone. He was the billionaire everyone in Lagos had been talking about that month. Chief Adeyemi, the man rumored to be buying up half the city's coastline for a massive resort development, and his eyes went straight to me. Demilare's laughter faded instantly. His father's jaw dropped. Chief Adeyemi walked toward us with calm authority, his gold wristwatch glinting. He ignored the murmurs, ignored the cameras that suddenly appeared from gawking onlookers. He stopped in front of me. "Ah," he said warmly, smiling in recognition. "You came after all. I was hoping you would." The entire table fell silent. Damilare blinked in confusion. You know her, sir?" Chief Adeyemi chuckled. "Know her? She's the one who saved my deal last week, and she's about to be my business partner." Mouths dropped, chairs scraped. I could feel Damilare's mother staring at me as if I transformed into something divine. Chief Adeyemi turned to him. "So this is your family. I see you've been entertaining my future partner." Interestingly, before anyone could speak again, Chief Adeyemi's phone rang. He stepped aside to answer, but his next words sliced through the tension. "Yes, I'm at the beach now. Tell the board we'll finalize the $80 million contract with her firm on Monday." The plate nearly slipped from my hand. Everyone froze. His father, Damilare's father, stumbled backward as realization hit. The man he had admired for years, whose approval he sought for every business venture, had just revealed that the poor fat pig his son mocked was about to close an $80 million deal. Chief Adeyemi turned back to me and smiled again. "By the way," he said softly, "did you tell them you own the company I'm acquiring?" And right there under the golden sun, every member of the Olenrawaju family stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. But what no one knew yet was that this wasn't the first time Damilare had humiliated me, and this was far from the first time life had given me the chance to get even. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping African stories like this one. What do you think happens next? I didn't breathe again until the ocean wind cooled my cheeks. The music had fallen to a nervous whisper. Damilare stood stiff as bamboo, his bravado draining with the tide while his father tried to read my face for mercy. I kept my voice steady. "Chief, thank you for coming." He nodded once, then drifted away to take another call, leaving me in a silence that remembered every insult I'd swallowed since I was a girl. The beach, the sun, the gold umbrellas, all of it blurred into memory. Back then, I was the quiet girl from Agego, with a big appetite and bigger dreams. My mother sold a Cara and Pap at dawn. My stepfather drove a Danfo bus that always coughed before it moved. I loved maps and water, how a coastline could be both a border and a beginning. At 14, I joined my aunt in Atlanta for school. The kids there were kinder to my accent than they were to my body. I wore oversized hoodies, learned to outrun shame, and learned something better. I didn't have to outrun anything if I became the storm. College pulled me into civil engineering and urban planning. Summers took me back to Lagos, to fishermen whose nets were shrinking along with their hopes. I saw how developers ignored water, wind, and people, then wondered why walls cracked and markets flooded. I started a tiny consultancy from my aunt's basement, a laptop, and stubbornness. I called it Olu plus Tide because my grandmother used to say, when the tide turns, even the smallest canoe finds courage. Damilare appeared at weddings and homecomings like a bad advert you couldn't skip. Louder suits, sharper insults. He measured people by cars and waistlines. Once, at a cousin's naming ceremony, he laughed into the microphone and called me the before photo. People roared, I smiled, bought baby gifts, and filed the moment away like a receipt. Last week, Olu plus Tide got its first real break. A public hearing in Ikoyi was collapsing into chaos. The resort plan on the table was glossy and foolish, a glass palace pretending the ocean was a pet. I stood up, hands shaking, and explained a cheaper design that respected the tide, redirected runoff, and saved the mangroves that fishermen needed. I didn't know Chief Adeyemi was in the second row, watching me redraw his dream with a pencil and honesty. Afterward, he found me outside. You saved me a lawsuit in 10 years, he said. Come to the office tomorrow. I presented a full plan and a list of communities to employ first. He presented something else. Respect. We shook hands. A week later, he called me partner. But there was a knot in the rope. Olanrewaju Marine Logistics, Demilare's father's company, controlled the permits for shoreline haulage. Their contracts were messy, their loans older than their trucks, and they'd been stalling the city for months to drive up fees. I didn't hunt revenge. I hunted clean numbers. The numbers said their debt was available to buy. Chief took that route quietly, not to ruin them, but to stop the bleeding that was drowning everyone else. Now at the beach, the tide of past and present crashed in the same wave. A message pinged his phone. He returned, eyes calm, then faced Damilar's father. Chief Olanrewaju, I respect your years in business, he said softly. But I must be transparent today, right here, so misunderstandings don't grow. He showed him the screen. The older man blinked, then blinked again. The color left his face. I saw the headline of a private memo reflected in his sunglasses. Transfer confirmed. Consolidated debt acquisition complete. Olanrewaju Marine Logistics. Controlling interest assigned. Damilar's father swallowed. What does this mean? It means, Chief answered, your company has a new majority stakeholder, as of this morning. Heads turned toward me like iron to a magnet. I hadn't touched the phone, but the truth was already walking toward us. Chief looked at me, then back at them. And your new operational lead is her. The sea seemed to hold its breath. Damilare finally found his voice. You can't be serious. Her? I stepped forward. Even my shadow stood taller. We start with audits on Monday, I said evenly. Safety first. Community hires next. We're rebuilding the right way. And if we refuse, Damilare asked, chin shaking. Chief didn't blink. Then we enforce the covenants you signed, but I prefer partnership. From the far end of the cabana, a young man sprinted in with a tablet and panic in his eyes. He whispered to Chief, who glanced at me with a question I hadn't expected. Naomi, he said quietly, someone filed an emergency injunction against the acquisition 30 minutes ago, using your mother's name. The ground tilted under my feet. My mother? The woman who hated paperwork and never left Lagos mainland after dark? Whoever did this knew exactly where to cut. If you're still with me, let's build this community together. Like the story, share it with a friend who loves suspense, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Lagos, Accra, Nairobi, Atlanta, New York. What would you have done in my shoes at that beach? Have you ever seen pride fall this fast? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. I left the shade of the cabana and walked toward the water, phone to my ear, heart kicking against my ribs. My mother didn't pick up. She never ignored my calls, not even when she was rolling hatakara by the dozen. I tried again, straight to voicemail. Chief's aide pulled up the filing on the tablet. The injunction used my mother's full name. a passport number she'd only used once for a church trip to Ghana, and a shaky power of attorney. The signatory line looked like my mother's handwriting. Almost. The M curved the wrong way, like a wave turning back to the shore. Damelaire hovered a few feet away, pretending to scroll his phone while savoring the chaos. "So," he said lightly, "the poor fat pig's mother is suing the ocean now?" His smile faltered when I looked at him, not angry, just seeing him. "You're loud, Dami," I said calmly, "but even the loudest drum is hollow if it's cracked." Chief touched my shoulder. "We'll verify the document and meet the judge within the hour. If it's forged, it will break in court." He paused, then added as if remembering a proverb of his own, "Truth travels slower than rumor, but it doesn't get tired." We drove off the island. The Echo Bridge spread ahead like a giant spine. On the mainland, the air changed, denser, closer, more honest. I told the driver to stop near Oko Oba, by the small canal where fishermen stitch their nets. An old man I knew, Baba Siri, sat under a patched umbrella, tying bright nylon lines like he was repairing time itself. "Daddy," I greeted, crouching. "Have you seen my mother today?" He didn't look up. Morning she passed here with a black nylon bag, headed toward the bus park. She looked like rain was walking behind her. "Did she say anything?" He tugged a knot tight. "Only asked about a story my own father told me, about the tortoise who borrowed a shell to attend a feast. He shined it, he danced, he insulted those who had less shine. But when the owner came to collect, he ran. They stripped him in the square." He glanced up at me, eyes clear as brine. "Borrowed shine is still borrowed." The words sat heavy. Borrowed shine, borrowed name. Chief's aide called. "We traced the filing," he said. "It was submitted by a clerk from Akinyemi and Rowe Chambers, the Olanrawanja's firm, but the fee came from a private account, cash deposit at a kiosk near Agaga Bus Park. We're pulling footage." I stared out at the water. A memory unlatched itself. Years ago, my stepfather had made my mother sign a bundle of small business forms she could not read. After he left us, debt collectors came like harmattan dust, soft at first, then choking. I learned to read legal English because pain made me fluent. We cleared every debt, every stain. Or so I thought. We found my mother near the bus park, sitting on a low stool behind sacks of beans, a nylon bag gripped in her lap. Her hands were steady, but her eyes were the eyes of someone hiding a storm. "Mama," I said, kneeling, "did you sign anything?" She shook her head slowly. "They came last night, a woman with red lipstick and a man who kept touching his ring. They said if I didn't sign, you would lose everything in court on Monday. They said it would only pause things, not stop. They gave me this." She opened the nylon bag. Neat bricks of cash stared back at us like teeth. The ground felt far away. "Who were they?" "Lawyers," she whispered. "They said they were protecting our family. The woman called herself Tinu. She smelled like lemon and pepper." Damilara's sister's name was Tinuola. She sold skincare on Instagram and attended court the way other people attended brunch, as a performance. Chief dialed his security, voice clipped. "Find Tinuola Olanrawaju. Now." As we turned to leave, a boy ran up, breathless. "Auntie Naomi, people are shouting at your house. Vans with red and blue lights. Court paper." We raced to our street. A small crowd had formed. 2 court bailiffs stood at our gate with folded documents, a videographer in their shadow. Across the road, a sleek SUV idled with tinted windows. I could feel eyes on us, watching not to witness, but to film. The first bailiff lifted the paper. "By order of the court, premises of the respondent are to be searched for documents relating to the disputed acquisition. Any business equipment found may be seized pending review." "This is nonsense," I said, palming through the first page. The judge's signature looked right, but the case number didn't match the filing we saw earlier. 2 different rivers wearing the same name. The SUV door opened. Tinuola stepped out in a cream suit and red lipstick, holding a microphone like it was a wand. "Naomi," she chimed sweetly, loud enough for the cameras, "you should have stayed in the shallow end. You brought the tide to our family. Now swim." Before I could answer, another car turned the corner and braked hard. My mother gripped my arm as the rear door opened and a woman emerged. Older, elegant, eyes that looked like mine in a mirror I didn't know I owned. She looked past the bailiffs, past Tinu, past the cameras, and straight at Chief. Her voice was low, but it carried. "You promised me you would leave her out of this," she said. "But the tide has turned, Adiemi. Tell your daughter the truth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you're gripped by this twist. What truth do you think she means? Comment your thoughts on the betrayal below and share this with someone who loves drama." The street held its breath. Tinuola's lipstick smile thinned when the older woman's words landed like a stone on still water. Chief removed his sunglasses slowly. I had never seen his hands tremble. "Kemi," he said, voice roughened by years and secrets. "Not here." Her gaze didn't leave him. "Then where? In court? In a headline?" "You promised the tide would carry her gently." I stepped between them, the bailiffs and cameras forgotten. "Ma, do I know you?" Kemi studied me with a softness that made my chest ache. "You know me the way a seed knows rain," she said. "You just haven't heard the story." Chief exhaled a long surrender. "Inside," he told the bailiffs. "You won't seize a thing until counsel arrives." They hesitated. His security detail stepped forward, and the videographer suddenly remembered the value of distance. We went into my sitting room. Chief, Kemi, my mother, me. Tinuola hovered at the gate, arguing into her phone. Damalaire's SUV idled like a hulking rumor. Kemi took the one chair that faced the window. "Before Lagos had flyovers," she began, "I was a girl selling groundnuts by the road. A boy in a shiny car bought a bag every day. He married money. I married work. But the ocean forgets nothing. Years later, that same boy, now a man, found me again. We loved too quickly and paid too slowly." She looked at Chief. "We hid it to protect everyone. When I found out I was pregnant, I disappeared to Port Harcourt. I promised I would never ask you for anything." My mother's fingers found the edge of her wrapper. "I was the nurse who trimmed the cord," she whispered. "Kemi was alone. The baby was sickly from the cold and the crying. I stayed after my shift. When Kemi had to run, there were men asking questions. I took the child home and said, 'Let me keep her till the tide calms.' The tide took years." The room tilted. "You're telling me—" Chief's eyes were wet. "Naomi, I am your father." Silence stretched thin as fishing line. Outside, a horn called once, twice. A hawker shouted about pure water like the world refused to pause for any one person's storm. "Why now?" I managed. "Why step into my life with contracts and boardrooms and cameras? Why not come with hands, with truth?" Kemi's voice gentled. "Because truth has enemies with good shoes. When your work became public, when you corrected the Ikoyi plan, someone matched your name with my past. They whispered to the wrong ears that you were Chief's hidden child sent to swallow Olanrawaju Marine whole." My mother nodded slowly. "They came last night because the lie was already dressed for church." Chief rubbed his temple. "I contacted the court to seal your records and protect you. Someone else moved faster with that fake injunction, using your mother's name to stain you, to shout conflict of interest on Monday." "Who?" I said. A knock at the door answered. Chief's aide entered with a tablet and grim eyes. He placed it on the center table and hit play. Grainy security footage from the kiosk near Agege. Tinuola accepting a cash bundle from a man with a signet ring. He turned. Even in low resolution, the face was unmistakable. Damilare. The camera angle changed to a hallway camera in Akinyemi Row. The same man, Damilare, handed papers to a junior clerk and tapped the name line with a pen. The clerk glanced around, then slid the file into a different tray, marked urgent. My mother inhaled sharply. "That's him, the ring man." Chief's jaw set. "Envy is a small house with a big fire." Kemi leaned toward me. "Child, the tortoise borrowed a shell to boast at the feast. Now he wants to smash the market when the owner asked for it back. But you don't smash. Build." I stood. The room steadied. "We answer in court. We answer in public. We don't hide." Outside, brakes screeched. 2 black vans rolled to a stop. Out stepped city compliance officers, real ones this time. followed by a stern-faced woman in a navy blazer. She lifted a folder and my name flashed at the top. Naomi, Chief murmured. That's the commissioner. The commissioner entered with quick, sure steps. We received two conflicting court orders, she said. One to seize, one to seal. We traced the conflict to forged filings and an illegal media tip. I need statements. From you, from Chief Adeyemi, and from Mr. Damilare Olanrewaju. Tinuola's voice rose outside, frantic. Tires squealed. Damilare's SUV lurched away, fishtailed, and slammed into the commissioner's parked van. In the hush that followed, his door opened and a thin stack of papers fluttered onto the road like guilty birds. Contracts, kickback schedules, a list titled Plan B. I walked to the doorway as officers surrounded him. Damilare looked up, and for the first time I saw him small, the shine borrowed and the bill due. Naomi, he said, voice cracking, if I go down, I won't go alone. If you're drawn into this storm, take a second to support the channel right here. Like the video, subscribe for the next chapter, and share this with someone who loves a sharp twist. What would you do if a family secret collided with a public scandal? Where are you watching from? Lagos, Accra, Nairobi, Atlanta, Houston? Drop it in the comments and let's talk. Officers ringed the crumpled SUV while the commissioner's pen flew across a notepad. Damilare kept talking, words spilling like petrol on hot ground. If I go down, I won't go alone, he repeated louder for the cameras that had crept back. Ask Chief why he's buying my father's life's work through the back door. Ask Naomi why her mother signs papers at midnight. The commissioner raised a hand. Enough. We'll separate statements. Her team ushered Damilare toward a patrol car. He twisted free just long enough to point at me. You think this makes you rich? My father will crush you before Monday. As if summoned, a sleek vintage Mercedes eased onto the street. Chief Olanrewaju stepped out in a crisp agbada, silver hair cut to a warrior's discipline. People parted for him by habit. His gaze swept the scene. Bailiffs, cameras, the fallen papers, his son in handcuffs, and landed on Chief Adeyemi. For a breath, Lagos forgot to be loud. Chief, he said, jaw tight, tell me this is a misunderstanding. Chief Adeyemi didn't move toward him. It isn't. Olanrewaju's eyes narrowed. You bought a rumor. I bought your debt, Chief replied, even, and the leverage attached to it. I chose to keep you on as a partner. Your son chose otherwise. It was there, the completion of the title written across his face as understanding washed over him. He had just seen the billionaire who bought his company. The iron pride in his shoulders drooped, then straightened by habit. He turned to me. And you, this is your doing? My doing, I said, is to keep the shoreline working and the workers safe. We're rebuilding the right way. A murmur ran through the crowd. Fishermen, boat riders, aunties with nylon bags, students with phones held high. The old story of the tortoise and borrowed shell floated between them like a proverb looking for a mouth. The commissioner cleared her throat. We have forged filings, a staged seizure, and a probable attempt to obstruct a public project. Mr. Olanrewaju, your son will be questioned. We'll need you at the station as well. My son made mistakes, he said, voice iron-wrapped. But this is still my house, my name. Adeyemi, you could have called me. I did, Chief answered softly. Twice. You sent me Tinuola. All eyes swung to the cream-suited sister, who suddenly found the fit of her sleeve very interesting. The commissioner nodded to an officer, who retrieved the red lipstick-stained documents from earlier. The ghost of a signature wobbled on the page. Olanrewaju faced his daughter. Did you place my company at the edge of a cliff to bargain for better shoes? Tinuola's chin lifted, then faltered. I was protecting us. They were going to push us out. I filed the pause so we could negotiate. With counterfeit orders, the commissioner said, and a cash bribe to a clerk. I didn't bribe, she snapped. I returned a favor. The officer held up security stills. The favor looked a lot like money. A lean man in overalls stepped forward from the crowd, cap in hand. Chief, he called to Olanrewaju, I've driven your trucks 13 years. Last month they sent us on water at night with busted lights and leaking drums. I didn't complain because my twins need school fees. That leak killed the mangroves we fish. If this lady says safety first, maybe let it be. It landed. Pride wrestled with math in the lines of Olan Rawaju's face. He looked at Demalar, who avoided his eyes, then at me, then at the commissioner. "What happens if I sign?" he asked, voice rough. I answered, "Not chief. You keep a seat if you keep the rules. We audit, we fix. We hire local first. We stop pretending the ocean is furniture." Chief nodded once. "And you repay what the numbers demand." A phone chimed on the table inside. Chief's aide. He checked, then looked up at us. "Judge on the line, Shonoshanonmashin. He's seen the forged order. He's prepared to vacate it tonight and issue a protective order, but only if Naomi agrees to a condition." "What condition?" I asked. The aide swallowed. "That you take emergency operational control of Olan Rawaju Marine immediately and appear on Sunday night TV to explain it live, with both chiefs beside you. A live interview before the court day. The city would be watching, hunting for any crack in my voice, any tremor they could call arrogance or fraud. I could feel the weight of my surname settling into my bones for the first time. The one I was born with and the one I had built." Kemi touched my shoulder. "Child, the tide does not ask the canoe if it is ready. It only asks if it will float." I looked at Olan Rawaju. He looked back with a gaze that had measured men all his life. "If I stand with you," he said, "do you humiliate my son on TV?" I did not look at Damilari. I looked at the drivers, the fishermen, the women with nylon bags, the boys on phones, the sea that never forgot. "No," I said. "I talk about safety, debt, and the plan. Truth, not theater." The commissioner waited, pen above paper. "Well, I'll do it," I said. "I'll take control. We go live tomorrow." In the next heartbeat, a siren wailed. Not police. An ambulance tore around the corner and braked hard. 2 paramedics jumped out and sprinted past us into my house. The foremost shouted back a word that yanked the air from my lungs. "Collapse in the sitting room. Female, mid-50s. My mother." If this story has you on edge, tap like and subscribe so you don't miss what happens to Mama in the live interview. Share with someone who loves high-stakes drama, and tell me in the comments, should Naomi go easy on the Olan Rawajas on TV or expose everything? The ambulance doors swung open and the paramedics rolled my mother through our doorway and out again in seconds that felt like a year. I ran beside the stretcher, Chief and Kemi on my heels. Siren up, Lagos parted for us. Okadas veering, hawkers pressing to the curb, the city breathing hot on the glass. At the emergency room, a doctor in cool blue scrubs met us. "Hypertensive crisis brought on by stress and dehydration," she said after a rapid exam. "She fainted, but you brought her fast. We'll stabilize her. No more shouting, no cameras. 30 minutes, then 1 visitor." I exhaled for the first time since the siren. Through a small window, I saw my mother's chest rise and fall. The tide in me calmed, but only to gather strength. Chief stood a step away, shame and resolve wrestling in his eyes. "I have lawyers scrubbing the forged filings," he said. "The commissioner will hold the fake order. The judge is prepared to protect you. I will stand beside you tomorrow." Kemi touched my arm, "And I will sit in the front row. A tide has many witnesses." We waited on plastic chairs that pinched the backs of our knees. I answered 3 calls from the commissioner, 1 from the judge's clerk, and 1 from an old fisherman who had heard a rumor that the interview would be about dragging men on TV. I told him it would be about boats that don't sink. Olan Rawaju arrived, alone this time. No convoy, no cameras. He looked smaller under hospital lights. "My son is talking too much," he said quietly. "I taught him to win. I forgot to teach him to lose with dignity." "You can still teach him to fix," I said. He nodded. "I signed your memorandum. Audit begins at dawn. I will sit beside you on television. I will not like it." "You don't have to like it," I said. "You have to do it." A nurse waved me in. My mother lay propped against pillows, a thin sheen of sweat on her forehead and a stubborn light in her eyes. "I embarrassed you," she whispered. "You saved me," I said. "Again." I told her about the interview, about the judge's condition, about the city that would be watching. Her mouth tightened, then softened. "Tell the truth," she said. "Tell it like hot water on dirty plates. Fast and don't stop until it runs clear." I wanted to stay until morning, But work pulled like gravity. When I rose, she caught my wrist. "One more thing," she said. "The woman with red lipstick came last week too. Not to me. To the clerk at your old school down the road. She asked for your records. She said it was for a scholarship." My mother's eyes flicked toward the door. A JSS2 boy overheard and told me, "He said to tell you he keeps secrets like a fisherman keeps knots." By the time I reached the corridor, Chief's aide had a new update. "Anonymous tip," he said. "A junior clerk from Akinyemi and Row wants to meet before the broadcast. He says he has documents and audio." "Where?" "He picked the receiving dock at the TV station. He's afraid of being seen." We drove to the station at dusk, the sky a bruised purple, the city humming like an engine ready for a hill. Security searched our car twice. The commissioner's team screened the loading bay. A young man in a rumpled shirt slipped from behind a stack of crates, a cap pulled low. "I only have 5 minutes," he said, thrusting an envelope into my hands. "I copied everything before they wiped the logs. I'm not loyal to thieves." Inside were photocopies of the forged orders, the cash deposit slip, and a small USB drive labeled in block letters. Plan C. He swallowed. They recorded themselves practicing a media strategy in the conference room. I think they forgot the mic was live. "Who's they?" I asked. He glanced over his shoulder. "Tinuola Damilare." He hesitated, throat working. "And Chief Olanrewaju." Not the worst words, but bad enough. "I have to go." The producer found us in the corridor. "You're live in 15, she said, handing me a lapel mic. "Segment 2, we can roll any supporting visuals you want, but once we run it, there's no pulling it back." In the green room, I slid the USB into a laptop. A progress bar crawled. The first file opened, low-res conference footage, 3 figures around a table. Tignola's voice was smooth. "We starve their trucks of permits. Give the media a little smoke about foreign money, and let Naomi's temper finish the job." Damilare laughed too loudly. "She'll snap on camera. Watch." Then Olanrewaju's voice, quieter, tired. "No one starves anyone. We negotiate hard and keep our people working. If this girl can fix the mess, let her fix it. But stall the filings long enough for me to clean my books." The room went cold. It wasn't a confession. It was not innocence either. It was a man trying to tidy a fire by sweeping ash under the rug. The producer stuck her head in. 10 minutes. Decide now." Chief watched the screen, jaw working. "If that airs, he will fall with his son," he said, "and the workers will panic." "And if it doesn't," I said, "we look like we hid dirt." My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text flashed up. "Go live with that clip and the woman in bed goes from stable to critical." I felt the floor shift under me. A second message followed with a grainy photo of my mother's ward door. I walked to the studio door. The lights beyond were hot and merciless. Through the glass, I saw the anchor shuffling cue cards, and beside the main couch, 2 chairs with our names taped to the back. A stagehand began to count down on his fingers. 5, 4, 3. I looked at the producer. "Can your team blur faces and bleep names in 30 seconds? "Maybe," she said, "if you give the signal now." I turned to Chief. "If I play it blurred, the truth stands without burning the whole house. But the threat..." The floor manager raised 2 fingers. 2, then 1. I lifted my hand to signal, and the studio lights snapped to red as the anchor spoke my name. Red light. Microphones live. The anchor smiled the way a blade glints. "Naomi Olu," she said. "Lagos wants answers. Did you seize Olanrewaju Marine to bury a rival or to save the shoreline? And who are you to Chief Adeyemi, really?" I felt the heat of the lamps and the weight of the city on my tongue. "We took control because numbers were bleeding and people were in danger," I said. "Tonight we start with truth, not theater." I nodded to the producer. On the screen behind us, the conference room clip rolled. Faces blurred, names bleeped. Tinu's strategy of smoke. Damilare's hope that I'd snap. The older male voice insisting on hard negotiation and a chance to fix. The point wasn't to humiliate. It was to show the weather of the room that nearly drowned a city's project. "We will audit," I continued. "We will put safety first. We will hire from the coastline communities. We will pay what the numbers demand, And no one will drive leaky drums into the night again. The anchor leaned forward. Are you Chief Adeyemi's daughter? The studio air thinned. I glanced at Chief on the opposite chair. He didn't flinch. My work stands on its own, I said steady. My private life is sealed by the court to protect people who did nothing wrong. What the public needs tonight is a plan that will not fail. I turned to camera one. Lagos, help us hold the plan, not the gossip, accountable. The segment ended to a hush that felt like respect. Off air, the producer squeezed my shoulder. You kept the line, she whispered. Most people swing. As we left the set, the commissioner appeared in the corridor, phone pressed to her ear, eyes flashing. Security traced the threatening texts, she said, hanging up. Disposable SIM purchased 5 minutes from the hospital. CCTV shows the buyer. She flicked her wrist, and a still image filled her screen. Damilare, signet ring catching a streetlight. Chief Olanrewaju arrived a beat later, breathless, suit askew, the dignity of a lifetime tilted by a son's choices. The commissioner met his eyes. He's already in custody for the forged filing. We'll add witness intimidation and interference. I'm sorry, Chief. Olanrewaju closed his eyes for one long second. When he opened them, there was no performance left, only a father facing a storm he could not buy. Do your work, he said, and let mine be better tomorrow. We drove straight to the hospital. My mother was sitting up now, cheeks rosier, scolding a nurse for trying to feed her plain tea. Kemi stood at the foot of the bed, a soft, proud smile hiding in the corners of her mouth. You didn't burn the house, she said. You opened the windows. I told Mama everything, the blur, the plan, the arrest. She listened until I finished, then touched my cheek. When the tide rises, she said, it lifts canoes that don't punch holes in themselves. Keep your canoe whole. By Monday, the judge vacated the forge order and blessed a clean path for the acquisition. At dawn, our audit teams climbed into trucks with fresh safety kits and checklists thicker than pride. The drivers grumbled, then read, then nodded. By noon, we replaced corroded drums and dead lights. By evening, a fisherman sent me a video of mangrove roots untouched by oil for the first time in months. This, he typed, feels like the tide changing. A week later, we stood on the shoreline with workers and elders, fishermen and vendors, both chiefs on either side of me. The wind smelled like salt and second chances. Cameras were back, but softer now, like witnesses instead of predators. I lifted a spade for the ceremonial dig, then lowered it as Olanrewaju stepped forward, clearing his throat. My son will answer to the law, he said to the crowd. I will answer to the work. The company you built with pride, he nodded to his drivers, will keep its name on the trucks, if it earns that name every day. He turned to me. We will learn to lose with dignity and to fix with it. Chief Adeyemi leaned close. Partner, he said, quiet joy in the word. You kept Lagos from drowning in smallness. I looked past the press line to my mother and Kemi, standing together, a history finally allowed to breathe. The tide curled in, touched our feet, and slipped away again, reminding us that even the ocean bows to rhythm and rule. I began as a poor fat pig at a family hangout. I ended on this beach with a plan the city could hold. Pride fell, work rose. We didn't smash, we built. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping tales like this. Share it with someone who loves drama and redemption. Comment your thoughts on the betrayals and the choices. What part hit you most, and what would you have done differently?